What's going on, people? This is Shy Harris, and
Elle Harris.
another episode of Keeping It Light. How are you doing today?
I'm here.
You're here.
Yeah,
I asked you that like I haven't been with you all day.
I know.
Yeah. All right. So, over the past couple of weeks on social media, there's been a meme challenge, a trend of people saying like how they got started versus where they at now. And I actually saw a video last week where Kev on stage and Tabitha Brown and their spouses and all that did the same thing. So I thought it would be kind of dope if me and you kind of talked about as far as marriage and us being married. We've been married for 7 years. How it started, in your opinion, versus where we at now. So let's talk about the past.
7.5 years.
Huh?
7.5 years.
7.5 years. Being a stickler. So let's talk about the first year of marriage versus the last year for us.
Okay.
All right. So how do you feel it started?
This is gonna be interesting.
You really slicked down your baby hairs today, didn't you?
I just looked him down when he was taking all day getting the things together.
That's what you do when you produce. But continue.
But I feel like in hindsight, I didn't see this in the beginning. I didn't see this. How do I want to say this? Let me go backwards and then move forward. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Let me go backwards and move forward. Earlier this year, probably May, April, somewhere in that time frame.
Are you talking about this year or are you going to
This year? No, just let me say what I gotta say.
Just make sure you're going in God's order.
We had a conversation about, we were somewhere, and I'm really weird about, I don't like people to talk about my business. I don't like for Rashad to talk about our marriage to other people. I think that it's just inconsiderate, and I think that it brings people into your marriage that shouldn't be in there. Well, we were having this conversation with some friends, and one of Rashad's friends said, but y'all not even a real married couple. Y'all are just business partners. And like it stung like deep inside of me, because then it made me think like, am I really looked at as this cold person that's just like trying to build businesses and living with a roommate? So I say all that to go backwards, and I feel like that's what our marriage was founded on. I think our marriage was founded on two people who had a lot of dreams and who knew how to believe in other people who had dreams and how to push them in those areas. And because we were both like-minded, it caused us to be really great friends, and it led to our love and to our marriage. But we were very driven. We were both on our own paths of success and like building out our dreams and helping each other with that. And so that was pretty much, I feel, the foundation of our marriage.
Okay.
And so a lot of our time was spent doing things in business in our first year. Didn't hurt me. I felt like it was great because, you know, I had just really started doing stuff with my nonprofit. This was your first year of actually doing things on your own with
my company.
With your company. I mean, you know how everybody is doing the whole like buy your girl a business. I bought Rashad a business in 2013 before any of y'all.
You bought the LLC.
I bought the LLC before any of y'all was doing this.
Tricking.
Innovative. It ain't tricking if you got it.
$55.
$100.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, don't get cocky. So, anyway, I'll say all that to say, I wanted him to be legit. I wanted him to be able to, because at that time he was in a relationship with a business partner and he was going out on his own. He already started doing things, but I wanted him to have something like legitimized that showed this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. You know, I just thought it would be dope. So, that's how I feel like our marriage started. But for me, that wasn't a bad thing. I think because I've been raised to understand, I've been raised to view marriage not just as something, so like, yes, you're supposed to love everybody, right? But I feel like
that's not really the case.
You are supposed to love
You're
everyone.
supposed to, but you don't.
You do.
I don't.
Well, you won't go to heaven.
I'm going to
I'm
heaven.
sorry. You won't.
I'm God's savior.
Okay.
I wasn't
But
laughing.
like I was saying, you're supposed to love everybody. So outside of love, when the love doesn't keep you together, what is really keeping you together? And I feel like it's that thing that it's the like-mindedness. So I've always been taught like two people who have the same goal in mind last a lot longer than people who are on two different tracks and have two different ideas of what the future looks like for them. And I feel like we both had our own ideas of what it was, but it was something that was congruent, like something that was cohesive between the two of us. So
okay.
at that time, I felt like that's what marriage was like.
Okay. So for me, I feel like our first year of marriage was actually pretty fun. It was probably like some of the best times I remember having. It just seemed like everything was like new and we was able to do a lot of things. I remember us going like, just I ain't say we was traveling because I feel like we still haven't been able to really travel the way we want to, but we was, going to National Harbor, we was going to Williamsburg for a winery or something like that. And I feel like that's what like all first years of marriage should be like. Like just really getting to know each other. Um, to piggyback off what you said, I do feel like with both of us kind of had, big aspirations of doing like great things. We helped each other. And I feel like somewhere along the way, we kind of probably once we our second year was kind of rough, I feel like. Just because we was in this house, I got in a car accident. Did anything else happen? We stayed with a friend for a little bit, but that's kind of like in our first year.
That was still our first year.
Yeah, that was like our first year.
We only our second year. None of that happened until like we were only our second year was the 10th. We moved here like the 23rd.
Yeah.
So that all still happened in our first year.
Yeah, but I feel like when we bought a house, that kind of made it
real.
Very real. Mm-hmm. It made it real.
Like, oh, snap, we own something together.
Yeah. And then it was like, all right, now it's time to really work. And I feel like that's kind of where it started to, I can't say divide, but it was like, you doing your thing, I'm doing our thing. Sometimes we kind of link up in the middle. Sometimes we don't. And then those sometimes that we link up in the middle became few and far in between. And so that caused us, and I don't want to make it sound like we were just beefing or we were just complete ends. We were still pretty close, but we were still apart.
We had different views. We were trying to both survive. I think we were trying to do everything we had to do to survive, but we weren't trying to thrive, and we weren't doing it together. Like you were doing what you had to do to make sure that we had. I was doing what I had to do to make sure that we had, but we never came together and consistently said, "All right, this is what we need to do together," because it needs to be more about us just like surviving.
Yeah.
And I think that caused us separate frustrations because we were like on our own paths. Like there were times where you would be gone for long periods of time, especially when you first started your business. And I'm like, dude, like, come on. But I didn't understand. Well, I'm doing what I got to do because I got to pay the mortgage this month and, X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I don't care about that. Like, you need to be here.
Yeah.
I can help pay the mortgage, like, but as a man, it's easy for you to say that as a woman, like, I could do this, but that's not what your man sees in mind. And I think
that's not what a man wants.
Yeah.
You want to be able to handle your responsibilities.
Yeah.
So if you can't do that, you feel like less than a man. So that's why I feel like at that moment I was working hard, stressed out, like, and keeping it all within. Also, in that first year, I realized that. So, all right, back up. Before we got married, I always thought to myself that I was going to get married. But I didn't want to be like the men that I've seen who were either toolboxes, as you say, like doormats where their wife just like runs all over them. I didn't want to be like a cheating husband who, just was out in the streets all day. But as I got married,
As I got married? Oh, okay.
But as I, became married and, became engulfed in married life, I started to see how I don't really understand the married guy, but the doormat guy, I can start to see how that man can, how somebody can become that man.
Mhm.
Just because you want to please your wife, at all costs, and you feel like to be a good husband, you got to give your wife whatever she wants.
Mhm.
So that means things that you want, you will forgo that to make sure that your wife is good or to make sure she's happy, even though it might be something that you don't want to do. But you're like, you know what, my wife really wants this. Let me just go and make that happen. But then after a while, it's like you're doing that with every little thing. So you don't even have your own
Mhm.
identity, or you're just saying yes to everything that pops up, even though it could be something that your wife doesn't even really want. So like, go get me ice cream at, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning. You're like,
Yeah.
yes, dear. And then you just go out and then you just become a simp. So doing the when we first got married, I realized how those men, become that way.
And you were, I think you felt like you were becoming that way, and then that's when you kind of became defiant. And I won't say like defiant. It was more so like, I don't like this. I don't really want to do this. I don't like going to concerts.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I'm like, don't go to concerts. I'll find
Right.
somebody to go to concert with. And so I go with my sugar daddy to concerts now.
Don't put that out there.
I'm joking. I go with my stepdad, but people always think he's my boyfriend.
Don't
But no, like, because if there's something that you still want to do, you're not going to stop doing it, because like I absolutely love music. So I'm not going to let that stop me because Rashad doesn't like it. But I think now we've come back to this curve of like, I mean, I don't know if it was just because of one particular time, but like early this year when I went to see Music Soul Child, he was like, "Oh, I would have liked to have gone,"
Yeah, yeah.
and I was just like, "Huh? Like that ain't something that you normally do."
It's the stuff that I like, that R&B concert we went to like 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely didn't want to go to that. But for like the D'Angelo concert, I really wanted to go to that.
Mm-hmm.
Or like her concert, I didn't really know her music at the time, but and since then we've seen her like 7 times, which
All right, you don't got
okay. Yeah. I was about to go on a rant.
it. You were.
But yeah, yeah. So with stuff like that, I don't really mind going. So it just got me to the point where the things I really don't want to do, I just
You don't do.
yeah.
And then you have to be okay with it, and you have to be okay with like your spouse doing it with other people.
Right.
So like that's been my thing. Like I'm not gonna let it stop me from like if Rashad wants to travel to somewhere, I don't know. I think I'm different though, because there are things that I don't want that you want to do that I don't want to do, but I'm gonna do it with you because I would want you to do it with me.
Okay.
So I would still engage.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's talk about where we're at right now in
Okay,
2020.
you go first.
I honestly feel like we are in the best period of our marriage ever.
I agree.
That's what he does this every week.
He just want to be seen.
All right. So yeah, I feel like we're in the best period of our marriage. Just because I feel like I'll have to chalk it up to us just understanding each other more.
I think we had a really bad blowout,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that blowout led to um I think that blowout led to what it needed to lead to.
Yeah.
Like it brought us to this moment.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that sometimes you have to have those moments. Because if you don't, it's gonna lead you further and further apart.
Right. Right.
And it was a gift and a curse.
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like the aftermath of that is just us understanding each other more.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
All right, now you getting carried away. No, you getting carried away.
let's get on.
You want to OUTSIDE.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like what the aftermath of that has led to us just understanding each other more, and with that just comes. I feel like when you understand somebody more, it leads to how I want to say this. It leads to not being as stressed out, because if I understand who you are and what are the things that you go through, then I can kind of step in, in certain situations. Or even when you said, you wanted me to lead more, now I feel like I can lead properly because I know that's something that you wanted to do, or you wanted of me, and
Mm-hmm.
that's something I want of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the decisions that I make now, I don't necessarily have the the issue of, is it something I should do? Is it something I should not do? It's just like, all right, this is my role now, and this is what the things I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and I feel like that just led to us being, even though I feel like in our marriage we were good friends, I feel like we're even greater friends because I just understand you more.
I agree. I think that we have I think the one of the biggest things that happen in marriage is that we assume things a lot
Mm-hmm.
because we're afraid to have conversations that may hurt. And so we just assume a person feels a certain way or a person doesn't care about things. Like I may assume that you don't care about how the kitchen looks because you didn't wash a dish.
Mm-hmm.
When it could literally just be I was tired, I didn't have time to wash this dish.
Right.
So if I allow that to continue to go on, I then leave that to every other area of my life. You don't care about anything because you don't take the time to put into.
Right.
So instead of having those hard conversations that we may think is like, I don't want to deal with this or this is petty. Like instead of dealing with that, it leads to bigger things. So that's why I feel like I say having the blowout or having those like conversations that might hurt a little bit. It may sting. It may bruise your ego, but having those conversations, it weeds out all of that assuming.
Yeah.
So it gets you to a place where you move. Like we can move now to us. I feel we're getting to a place where we can move in. Like I already know it's 10:30. Rashad's probably hungry. I can go do this. I know he hasn't eaten yet.
Right.
Like or I know like we're on the same.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we're in tune.
Right.
So that's probably the one of the greatest things. But as I said in the beginning, with that whole situation of feeling like we're just business partners,
Mm-hmm.
that has been the foundation of our marriage.
Yeah.
So I had to ask Rashad the question: do you want to be your wife or your business partner? And that's like a real question, like, because I need to know how to move. I need to know how I'm providing in each of those areas. And I think that he had probably felt that way for a long time and he just never said anything.
Yeah.
So, I move in a way that you need me the most. And so once I understood that, it changed it because looking at it now, I can see how I could have been cold in certain situations, like all those different things. And so I think it helped me grow because it was just like, oh, I've never wanted to be like that cold person in my marriage. Maybe in other areas. But maybe Miranda Priestley in other areas of life, but not there. And so I think it was very important to have that conversation.
Okay.
So where I think we are today, I think we are in a great place. I think it's been because of just having those honest conversations and the release of not having to lead and the release of knowing that you have my back. You know what I'm saying? And that has been the freest form of like anything I've been. This has been the greatest year ever in a long time. So
during a pandemic.
During a pandemic, it has I promise you, it has changed every single area of our life.
Mm. And I can agree to that.
Yeah.
I can agree to that. All right. One thing I feel like I've been wanting to say, which in regards to leading, it's something that's actually been thinking about for a while. Because every time I think of like these type of conversations, I realize that going back to like the husband that's the doormat. With that, I feel like I used to think that's the only way that you can lead is like, or not lead, but you got to make sure your wife is good. You got to make sure she's happy. You got to do pretty much everything she says. Because that's where I felt like everything in media was kind of centered around like, even TV shows or just men that I know that are married. It's like, whatever my wife, want to do, we're gonna do it and stuff like that. I'm like, yo, but what about stuff you want to do? So with that, I started thinking about like leadership, especially probably after our last conversation with it, and I realized sometimes as men we have to look at it like leaders in companies or leaders of teams. Like sometimes you got to do what's overall the best for the team or the company or the ship or whatever you're a leader
Mm-hmm.
of. So sometimes people with on your team aren't going to be happy with your decision, but you're doing what's best for the overall team. So lately, I've been looking at it like that. Like sometimes I'm not going to be able to go to all the things that you probably need me to go to, but I'm doing what's best for the overall family and household.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like not necessarily in the end, but you'll be able to see that the decisions I'm making are the best thing overall for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like as men, sometimes we have to look at it like that instead of thinking of, all right, I'm gonna do this because my wife wants me to do it. Not saying I don't want my wife to be happy, but I'm actively trying to make her happy every day. But sometimes a decision comes where you have to think of the overall, what's best for the household and the people involved with that.
This is not like a precursor to my Chanel bag, is it? Because I feel like you just gave that story, so now
No, 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 no.
I'll feel bad. I feel bad to ask for one now because it's like, well, I was actually doing what was for the family, so
Maybe.
toolbox me.
Yeah. Chanel or Birkin bag?
I don't want a Birkin bag. That's not
No.
something like I don't. They don't do anything for me.
Yeah, okay. I couldn't even tell you what it looked like anyway. All right, so anything else you want to talk about?
Not for today.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of Keeping It Light. Once again, I'm Rashad Harris, God's favorite, and this is
Oh, Harris, and I like these colors. Like what you did to the room.
all right. So you guys stay safe, stay running free, but I think I'm switching it up on.
But what?
I don't know what I was gonna say after that.
Mm.
But you guys have a great one.
Toodles.